Microphone. Is that better? Good evening, everyone. Can I welcome you, everyone, to the annual council meeting. These proceedings are being live streamed, and I would also like to welcome any members of the press or the public who may be watching online. I now call upon the Chief Executive to read the notice convening the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You are summoned to attend the annual meeting of Sunderland City Council to be held in Council Chamber, City Hall, Play-to-Way, Sunderland, on Wednesday, 18th of May 2022 at 6 p.m, at which it is proposed to consider and transact the business as set out in the agenda.
Thank you. The Mayor's announcements. It is with great sadness that I remind Council of the recent death of former Councillor and Mayor of the City, Brian Charlton, aged 77 years. Brian was a Mayor of the City in 1993 to 1994 and was accompanied by his late wife, Maureen, as his Mayoress. Brian was first elected to the Council in May 1987 and represented the Southwick Ward until 2004. And in 2004, he became a ward member for the Red Hills Ward and served until his retirement in 2012. Brian held the position of Deputy Leader of the Council from 2000 to 2005, and because of this, he represented Sunderland Council on numerous important outside bodies, such as the Local Government Association, General Assembly, and the Association of North East Councillors, as well as a number of other regional bodies. Brian was initially a member of the Cabinet in his position as Deputy Leader, and from 2007 to 2012, he held the Regeneration and Community Cohesion portfolio, followed by the Prosperous City portfolio. Brian was a member of many committees over the years, such as the Management Committee, Standards Management Committee, Planning and Highways, and the Social Services Committee, which he chaired from 1995 to 2000, all of which gave him a wealth of experience and knowledge of all aspects of local authority and the services provided by the Council and its partners. Brian was also an active member in his community, serving on the North Sunderland Area Committee, and was the Council representative on Southwick Neighbourhood Youth Project, Hilton Red House Youth Wing and Red House Community Association, and he was Governor of both Red House Schools and Monk Weymouth College Further Education during his time on the Council. Our sympathies, special sympathies, go to Brian's family and friends. Will you now join me in standing for a minute's silence as a mark of respect for our former colleague Brian Charlton? Before we go on to the election of Mayor, I would just like to mention to colleagues a gentleman who served on this council for a good number of years, George Howe. He's not feeling very well at the moment. I believe he's had quite an operation, and I'm sure all members of this council would send his best to himself and his family. We now move into the election of mayor. We'll now proceed to the election of the mayor, and I would like to invite nominations for the office of mayor for the ensuing year, and I believe Councillor Miller has a nomination.
Alison Smith for the mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have a seconder?
Yes, I'd like to second Alison Smith.
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Miller to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is Councillor Paul Stewart's speech that I'm about to read out, because Paul was going to nominate Alison, being her ward colleague, but Paul has COVID and cannot be here tonight. So these are his words, not mine. So any laughter at the jokes is down to him and not me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, fellow councillors, friends, colleagues. It gives me great pleasure to propose Alison Smith to become the mayor of our great city. Firstly, though, could I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your great service whilst undertaking the role of mayor, in particular your ever so good chairmanship of full council meetings that occasionally could be hectic, balancing the need to ensure a climate where debate and the passion they bring from all sides of the political spectrum can operate, whilst at the same time ensuring the orderly business of the council is maintained. So, back to Alison. On employment. With a life so rich, it's actually hard to work out where to start. But family, whether it be husband Dave, children Emma, Louise, Ian or Claire, and the wider extended family and friends, who I think many are here tonight, will be ever so proud of the achievements that have brought her here to become Mayor of Sunderland. Many of you will be surprised to learn that Alison is no stranger to Sunderland Council, as she is a former employee. And I've got to be honest, I didn't know that. You kept that quiet. Dating back to 30th of September 1994, where she was employed in city contracting services. Over the years that followed, she rose through the ranks to become a senior personnel and resourcing officer before becoming an HR advisor within the HR advice team before retiring in 2012. Colleagues, and remember how she was a real people person who genuinely cared for others, but that two things consistently were referenced by those who remember her. Firstly, Alison loves to bake and never missed an opportunity to bring cakes or freshly baked scones into the office, always with my personal favourite, jam and cream, to celebrate an occasion, or more often than not, just because it was a Monday or any day ending in a Y. Those of us still working will know all about Mondays and homemade scones. Sounds just about right. Looking forward to the leader learning by your example. I'm not quite sure that's going to work, Councillor Stewart. I'll speak to the Mayor about that and she can supply the scones. Alison will ensure his cabinet would not say no to the odd cake from the boss. Though Alison is a great cook, even a superstar has some failings, and for Alison it's spiced ginger snaps. If they are ever offered these from her, then worry. Really worry, as Alison does like her spice and has occasionally been known for confusing ground ginger and curry powder. My personal favourite, Councillor Smith. I'll try some of those. It'll be excellent. The second aspect that colleagues and family remember was her commitment to the Girl Guide movement. While working at Sunderland Council, Alison was asked to help transport some Girl Guides on a trip, starting more than 40 years of commitment to the Girl Guides movement, where she went all over the world with them, ranging from Switzerland through to Canada. In addition, she helped bring the world to the northeast, helping to organise a Girl Guide World Camp with girls from as far afield as the USA, Japan, the Far East and Africa. She was a leader in the Girl Guides for many years, and she loved going to the big gig every year in Wembley with the guides. She loves to party and would come back every year so excited to have seen so many famous singers and bands. She told the team that about a little boy with ginger hair and a guitar who was amazing. And this was the beginning of Ed Sheeran's musical career. So what else is there to tell? Well, it's something only seen a few times a year when the weather's bright and sunny, and it's the passion both Dave and Alison show for their pride and joy. And sorry, family, but it's the car. An MG midget that looks like it's come from a James Bond movie, and actually you can spot it in The Man with the Golden Gun being driven by Britt Eklund on her way to see James, or was it really Alison on her way to see Dave? Really? Honestly? Looking now at Alison's time as a councillor in Redhill Ward, dare I say a small thank you to Councillor Mann, as without her, Alison may well have ended up somewhere else in another ward. But we have her now in Redhill, and she is our superstar, and we promise not to let her go. The past 12 months, our local community has witnessed Alison as one of Santa's elves, accompanied by her best friend Woody, numerous pictures with big, strong firemen, and most recently, all three of us and community volunteers wandering around the downhill sports complex in Easter bunny suits. So you can understand that both I and most recently our colleague John Usher have been on a wonderful roller coaster ride since Alison joined the Redhill councillor team. She has reminded us and many colleagues on the council that working in and on behalf of your local community can actually be fun. I sincerely wish you well with Dave at your side, and I'm sure you will enjoy every minute of your year ahead as Mayor and Consort of the City of Sunderland. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can I now invite Councillor Usher to speak to the nomination?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honoured guests and colleagues. I have the honour and privilege of saying a few words about Alison Smith today, and I would like to thank everybody for their attention. What can I say about Alison? Well, I've been a councillor since the March by-election in Redhill, and I've known Alison as a colleague in the run-up to this and from CLP meetings. First of all, Alison is my friend and a well-respected colleague. She's a popular and recognised councillor in the Redhill ward. She's very hard-working in Redhill and also as the Deputy Mayor. The amount of time spent and the results achieved in Redhill is very much down to Alison and Dave, delivering letters, leaflets, and joining in or arranging the local events for Friends of Bunny Hill, the Downhill Pond, the Downhill Hub, Red House Community Association and St Cuthbert's Church. She is also a school governor at Willowwood School, and I'm sure they are very glad to have her. Everyone loves and respects Alison. Why wouldn't you? She'll be a fantastic mayor for the city, and Dave will be a fantastic consort. My heartfelt congratulations to you both on your nomination. Thank you.
Are there any further nominations? Councillor Mullen. Have you seconded to that nomination? Councillor Hudson. Councillor Mullen, would you like to speak to the nomination?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Conservative Group doesn't normally offer an alternative, but this year is special. It's 55 years since Peter Wood was first elected to the council, and this year will be his last. Peter was first elected to Sunderland Council in 1967, and he served until losing his seat in 1970. He returned the following year, winning a by-election in the Fulwell ward, and was a councillor there until 1983. Hopefully he can offer Jim some advice on how to do that next year. During this period, he was group leader for 6 years between 1973 and 1979. He then tested the waters in the St Michael's ward, serving for a year between 1983 and 1984, and then, after 15 years of reflecting upon that experience, decided to return full-time in 1999 and has served there since. During that period, he served a further 2 stints as Conservative leader and 1 as Conservative deputy leader. His achievements as a councillor are many. As vice chair of the former Transport Committee, back when the council ran its own bus network, Peter was instrumental in introducing zonal fares to replace the loss-making flat rate. During his time on planning, it was Peter that first advocated for the council to adopt something called the call-in process, something previously not in place. And on the former Tyne and Wear Integrated Transport Authority, Peter led a coalition of Conservative and Liberal Democrats. Peter's standing in the city is such that Labour councillors have already lobbied the leader to make him mayor, so there's no need for me to do it. And it's easy to understand why they've done that, because few people have demonstrated Peter's commitment to the city or to public life on this or, I suspect, many other local authorities, and few can claim to have the knowledge and experience that he has. So in what will be his final year on Sunderland Council, we're not simply suggesting that Peter deserves to be mayor, but that Sunderland deserves a mayor like Peter.
Councillor Hodgson, would you speak to the nomination?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sunderland. The Liberal Democrat Group will be supporting the nomination of Peter Wood as Mayor for this year. Firstly, on the grounds that Anthony Mullen has already described of Peter's undoubted qualification and support across the Chamber to take up this role. Secondly, I have to say that the role of Mayor needs to be impartial, and I won't embarrass the existing Deputy Mayor and the proposed Labour Mayor with reference to the comments that she made about a member of my group on the record some months ago. I think comments like that disbar somebody from taking up a role like this.
Councillor Hodgson, really?
Yes. Moving on, I also think it's important that a civic role is apolitical and non-partisan. This role has only ever been held at this council by a Labour councillor. Not everybody in this city votes for the Labour Party. It would only be fair in a city like this if important civic roles were shared between different groups and different points of view on the council.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
State the rule, please, Peter.
The councillor stated... Are you talking to me? I'm Councillor Peter, not Peter.
Councillors, come on. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The councillor stated that this council has only been ruled by Labour councillors. That's totally untrue, Mr. Mayor. Totally untrue. And he wants to withdraw that statement.
Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you. I believe I'm correct that since this council came into existence following the Local Government Act 1973, it has only ever been represented by a Labour councillor as a mayor. That wasn't this council, was it? And at no point have you cited a rule that's been broken.
Councillors,
I think we're getting a bit beyond the point, Mayor. I've made some quite simple points, which is simply that I think that this rule should be non-partisan. It's important that we look at sharing the rule, as is done in lots of other cities, with a similar balance of power. And I hope we'll consider supporting Peter Wood for the role. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations? No? Therefore, we will take a vote. Governance services will arrange that. Thank you, William.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the members' information, the way we'll take the vote is that I'll call the name of each individual member in turn, and if they could state whether they vote for Councillor Smith or Councillor Wood, or whether they abstain. So first of all, Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Burrell. Councillor Butler.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Checker.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Chisnell.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Farthing.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Fletcher.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Foster.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Peter Gibson.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Guy.
Councillor Alison Smith.
Councillor J. Herron.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor M. Herron.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor K. Johnston. Councillor Loughlin. Councillor Laws.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Mason Gage. Noted, thank you. Councillor F. Miller.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor G. Miller. Councillor Mordy.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor J. Price.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Roundtree.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Samuels.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Scanlon.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor I. Scott.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor A. Smith. You can if you wish, or you can abstain, it's up to you. Councillor P. Smith. Councillor D. Snowden.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor D. E. Snowden.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Spedding. Councillor Thornton.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor D. Truman. Councillor H. Truman.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Ty. Councillor Usher.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor M. Walker.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor P. Walker.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Warne.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Williams. Councillor Ali. Councillor Eyre.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Bernicle.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor M. Dixon. Councillor Donaghy.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Doyle.
Councillor Peter Wood.
Councillor Dunn.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Greener.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Hartnack. Councillor Hartnack. Apologies. Councillor Johnston.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Mann.
With respect, Councillor Wood.
Councillor McKeith. Councillor McKeith. Not here. Councillor Mullen. Councillor Peacock.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Reid. Councillor Vera.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Wood. Councillor Bond.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Crosby. Councillor Curtis.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Edgeworth.
Peter Wood.
Councillor Fagan.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Gibson.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor Haswell. Councillor Hodson. Councillor Morrissey.
Peter Wood.
Councillor Nicholson.
Councillor Wood.
Councillor O'Brien. Councillor Potts. Councillor G. Smith. Councillor A. Wood. Could members confirm, has everybody voted? There's nobody who hasn't been able to vote. The Governance Officer could read the results, please. Apologies, I didn't realise the Governance Officer didn't have a microphone. The total is 36 votes for Councillor Smith and 28 votes for Councillor Wood.
Thank you. I declare that Councillor Alison Smith is elected Mayor of the City for the ensuing year. I think I can get this overcoat off.
Mr Mayor, might I be allowed to congratulate Councillor Alison Smith upon her election and wish her well for the next 12 months?
I now call upon the Mayor to read and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
I, Alison Smith, having been elected to the office of Mayor of the Sunderland City Council, hereby declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
Wants to stand up. I now invite the Mayor to make an acceptance speech.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Honoured guests, colleagues. It's been a very exciting evening so far. It's with pride and humility that I accept the role of Mayor for the coming year. I read something this morning that summed up how I feel about it all. Being humble means recognising that we are not on earth to see how important we can become, but to see how much difference we can make in the lives of others. This has been my approach as Councillor for Red Hill Ward and will continue to be my aim over the coming 12 months whilst representing the City of Sunderland. I'd like to begin by thanking Councillor Graeme Miller, who on behalf of Paul Stewart gave the nomination speech. Now, I'd like to say a little bit about Paul. His guidance and mentorship throughout the last year have been invaluable. His tolerance has been immense. And I've got us involved in all sorts of unusual activities. Who will ever forget his very successful contribution to the Red House Community Centre's Christmas Fair last year? And he referenced that in his speech about me making him dress up as Woody and entertain the children. I am aware that I will be leaning heavily on him during my mayoral year, and for that, I thank him in advance. I would also like to thank my seconder, Councillor John Usher, for his kind words. He is an invaluable member of the Red Hill team. He has thrown himself wholeheartedly into everything we do, and whilst he's very calm in his approach, he tackles everything that's thrown at him head on. His amazing sense of humour brings us through the trials we experience each day. My grateful thanks also go to Councillors Harry and Dorothy Truman for their dedication and hard work as Mayor and Mayoress during such difficult times. Their hard work and commitment throughout such a difficult year has resulted in over £12,000 being raised for their chosen charities. We have worked well together to represent the city. The generosity they have displayed with their time and advice is a great basis on which to start my year. David and I have been invited to share appointments with them where possible, and this was a time of learning as well as pleasure. Thank you both. I would further like to thank the mayoral support team, Mandy, Estelle, David, Bill and Chris. They work extremely hard and are a credit to the city. We are only able to accept so many invitations to attend events across the city and the wider area because of their organisation and support. We couldn't do it without you. My thanks also go to Reverend Jen Bradshaw, Team Rector of North Wearside Parish, who has kindly agreed to be my chaplain. I know she will be there providing me with ongoing support, and will be hosting my civic service on Sunday the 10th of July in St Cuthbert's Church in Redhill Ward. And I hope I'll see many of you there for that occasion. My charities for the year are firstly Hope for All. This is a charity based in Pennywell. When I first became, thank you Councillor Mann, when I first became involved, very, very briefly so, they were providing a food bank service in the area. Over the last 18 months or so, watching them develop has been unbelievable. They provide community cafes, support for families, support for lonely people. They've started a choir, but you have to not be able to sing to join this choir. It's for fun. They have a special line where they produce dog products, and the money from that goes to pay for veterinary care for the dogs of homeless people on our streets, where perhaps the only friend they have is their dog. Loads of things. I think you're talking about beehives in the garden to produce honey, and a cooperative shop, which is very close to my heart, which they now have the community running for the benefit of everyone. I think a very worthy group to support. I have two other charities that I've chosen within my own ward. The first one is the Friends of Bunny Hill. For those of you who don't know, Bunny Hill is a very beautiful area of Sunderland overlooking the castle, and it's been left to go to wreck and ruin over the years. The Friends of Bunny Hill have taken on the huge challenge of restoring it. There's amazing flora and fauna, and some of it's protected, and I can't tell you about it, but we are very thrilled with some of the animals that are actually living on the hill. It's an area of great historical interest, going back to time when rock was hewn out of it to build Hilton Castle, and lots of other things. And we are supporting them in trying to restore the public footpaths, put up fencing, seating, and make it a general place for the public to enjoy themselves. Huge, huge job helping people with mental health issues following the lockdown. A place where they can come out and be together and share. And finally, Downhill Community Pond and Garden. Another new charity within the ward that's developed since COVID. A very exciting project where the produce is absolutely amazing. It's available for the community. They can come in, they can enjoy the gardening. There are talks going on at the moment with veterans in crisis for them to come and use it as part of their therapy. And the produce goes to the community, or there are plans, I think, to do food, make soup and different things with the produce to generally share. Another place of sanctuary for people to go to learn and be happy. Two very new charities in Redhill, and I'm very pleased to be able to support them. Finally, I would like to thank David for agreeing to be my consort for a further year. And I know he'll be raising his eyebrows at the agreeing bit. Without his ongoing support, I would not have been able to achieve so much, both as Deputy Mayor and in Redhill Ward over the last 12 months. David doesn't like being the centre of attention or speaking in public, but he's extremely good at making small talk, as Councillor Mann will verify. He can chat to anyone he meets and be genuinely interested in what they have to say. I'll give you a little example of this. He spends a lot of time with me in the ward, going round chatting to people, taking part in events and activities. And one day we were out in Upper Redhill, and I know some of you have heard this story before, and some people came out and said, hello David, how are you? Where's that woman you normally bring with you? And I was nobody. David was the star. And when we turn out for monthly ward litter picks or with Bunny Hill, I hear, oh, hello, it's Dave. Occasions like this keep my feet firmly on the ground. He is hosting a consort at home immediately after my civic service and is looking forward to meeting some of you for the first time and getting to know many of you better. I have been proud and privileged to have held the role of Deputy Mayor. I've been overwhelmed by the people of Sunderland, who give so much to the community and have allowed me to share in their achievements. There have been many memorable events, such as the Remembrance Day Parade, Citizenship Ceremonies, flying the Red Ensign for the Merchant Navy Day, laying up of the National Sewers banner at Sunderland Minster, the Interfaith Peace Walk around the city, the Tornado Handover event at Sunderland North East Land Sea and Air Museum. And who could forget taking part in the Halloween parade with many, many young people and families from all around the city. What a night that was. I would like to welcome the incoming Deputy Mayor and consort, Councillors Dorothy and Harry Truman. I already know how hard they work, and I am greatly looking forward to another year of working with them. They are fine ambassadors for the City of Sunderland. Finally, I would be delighted if all councillors and invited guests would join me for refreshments in the Mayor's Parlour at the conclusion of the proceedings tonight. Thank you. Mentioned, I have appointed the Reverend Jennifer Bradshaw of the Team Rector of North Wearside Parish to be my chaplain for my term of office. And I now invite Reverend Bradshaw to offer prayers for this year.
So let us pray. Dear Lord and Creator of all, we give you thanks for this city, for its people, its resources, its rich heritage. We pray tonight for the Right Worshipful Councillor Alison Smith, who's our new Mayor of the City of Sunderland, and also for her consort, Mr David Smith, and also for her deputy and consort, Councillors Dorothy and Harry Truman. Give them such knowledge of your love for them and all your people that they perform their duties with grace and integrity. With your guidance, may they support the people of this city and seek to defend their best interests. Give to our new Mayor wisdom in her decision-making and strength to complete the task ahead. May she continue to be a voice of conciliation and peace amongst her colleagues in the council chambers and among all parties. Through her and her consort, may you bless this city with all good gifts from your treasure store. In the name of God, who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. I now call upon Councillor Spedding to move a vote of thanks for the retiring Mayor.
Yeah, good evening. Madam Mayor, honoured guests and colleagues. It's a year less a day since I had the honour of proposing Councillor Henry Truman, also known as Harry, for the position of Mayor of the City of Sunderland for the 2021-2022 civic year. A proposal made in the most difficult and unusual of circumstances and following his apprenticeship as Deputy Mayor, an extended apprenticeship. I can safely report to Council that despite the continuing COVID-19 restrictions and the imposed limitations, Harry quickly became a fully fledged member of the regional chain gang and has fulfilled the role of first citizen of this fine city with distinction, compassion, enthusiasm, dedication and humble impartiality, ably and resolutely assisted by the Mayoress, his better half. Despite contracting COVID at Christmas, clearly wasn't a wonder, as Harry would meet all his guests with a friendly greeting, which resulted in him personally missing out Christmas with his family. Harry has still managed to amass some 211 official civic functions throughout this year as Mayor, promoting along the way his city and his most worthwhile charities at each and every occasion. Sadly, both the Civic Ball and the Mayoress at Home fundraising opportunities fell victim to COVID restrictions. However, not in the least daunted, two alternative functions were quickly arranged, namely a Greek night and a curry night, both featuring raffles of exclusive multiple prizes and first-class cuisine. They not only helped to contribute to his charities, but also benefited the businesses, communities who hosted those functions. The other official duty of the Mayor is to hold the unenviable of all tasks, the office of chairing meetings of full council. I'm sure colleagues across the political spectrum will reflect and join me in commending Harry's respect and fairness towards, without exception, every councillor in dispatching that duty, whilst firm, not a red card was issued through that year. Unfortunately, and despite a magnificent year, protocol dictates that the outgoing Mayor arrives at City Hall in the Civic car. And if you don't have a lift home after the Mayor-making ceremony, you'll have to get the bus. I think it's the number 2A or 78 that will drop you off in Langdale Road. But I'm just kidding, because I'm sure Lisa has brought the car. In all seriousness, Madam Mayor, honoured guests and colleagues, this vote of thanks is not just about recognising as first citizen the achievements and contribution Harry has made to this city, but more importantly, letting him know. So Harry, on behalf of this council and the people of this great city, thank you.
The vote of thanks will be seconded by Councillor Peter Gibson.
Madam Mayor, honoured guests, colleagues, it is a pleasure to rise to second this vote of thanks to the outgoing Mayor, Madam Mayor. Harry has had a very, very difficult year, as you well know. I just took notice when Councillor Spedding mentioned the number of functions that the Mayor has attended this year, 200 and odd, I think he said. In my mayoral year, I attended 750 functions. So that shows you how much COVID has affected the duties of the Mayor. It's drastically cut down on everything the Mayor has had to do. But whilst it's cut down on that, Harry's carried out those duties faithfully and along with his wife, gracefully. Can I second the vote of thanks to the outgoing Mayor and Mayoress? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
The vote of thanks will be supported by Councillor Dixon. Can I now call upon Councillor Dixon to speak?
Madam Mayor, thank you, and colleagues. I'd like, on behalf of the Conservative group of councillors, to thank Harry Truman for his work as our Mayor over the past year, and also to his wife Dorothy as our Mayoress. As a political party, we've always supported the role of the Mayor as being an essential part of our civic life, on the understanding, of course, that the recipient had earned that honour through their past services to this council. With that said, I wish Councillor Alison Smith all the very best in her year ahead, and we will give her full support. I think even my esteemed colleague, Councillor Wood, would agree that there wasn't a person more qualified than Harry Truman to be our Mayor when you take into account his vast experience as an elected member of this council and the positions that he's held over a long time. Notwithstanding the various committees on which he served, Harry was a cabinet member for many years. And when I came across him, he was the spokesman for housing. And in those days, when elected members could ask more questions, we had some good exchanges. Harry then became deputy leader of the council, and I got to know him well, along with Councillor Spedding and the late Paul Watson, when myself and Councillor Wood, as leader and deputy leader of the then smaller group of Conservatives, would meet at regular intervals, and we built up friendships there. Harry then moved to lead the council before becoming deputy mayor. Then we have the mayoral year just passed, and the list continues as he's to be the consort to his wife Dorothy in her role as deputy mayor in the year ahead. And reading through all these many positions he's held, I think Harry has just about covered it all on Sunderland Council. So I'm confident if the House of Lords does come to Sunderland, there may be a role found for him if he wants to show his lordships what we can do here in Sunderland. But time will tell. For those councillors who may be new to their roles, it's worth mentioning to them just how much work and commitment being a mayor entails, and this has been mentioned by Councillor Spedding and Peter Gibson already. It's just not a case of keeping unruly councillors in check during full council. There's much more to it. And obviously I'm just one of a number of 75, but during this past year I've attended or helped organise several events where Harry's been in attendance. And these include a visit to Holy Trinity Church in the East End for a guided tour as to the progress of its renovation, the memorial service in June for the Victoria Hall disaster in Mowbray Park, a memorial fundraising Greek night at the Prospect in Penshire, a very memorable evening I might add, the annual general meeting of the Sunderland Floral and Art Club at the Bethany Church in Stockton Road, the 100th anniversary of Backhouse Park, where Harry and I spent many hours there chatting away to the 250-odd people who attended, and then we were back to Holy Trinity for the official opening. And these are just a very small number of events where I have personal involvement. There'll be countless other examples involving other councillors where Harry was in attendance. In addition to he and Dorothy representing the city at ceremonial, regional and even national level. Behind every successful mayor is a good team of council officers, and over the years we've been fortunate to have some excellent ones supporting the mayor. Plus, of course, his deputy and wife Dorothy, who will have been a massive help to Harry over these past months, and we wish her well for her term as deputy mayor in the year ahead. Both of them have worked tirelessly to raise money for their chosen charities, the Special Lioness and Hug in a Bag. At the outset, Harry commented on the role of the mayor, quoting, "The civic role of the mayoral office encompasses everything from raising ceremonial flags to raising money for charity, and I will continue to work hard to raise the profile of Sunderland wherever I can." I think it's fair to say that Harry achieved all these aims, plus a good more besides, in what has been a very successful year for himself and Dorothy. Our thanks are extended for all your hard work, Harry, and dedication as our mayor. Thank you.
I now call upon Councillor Harry Truman to reply.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, honoured guests, aldermen, family, friends and colleagues, and thank everyone for your kind words. Just over 2.5 years ago, the world was hit by a pandemic, changing our lives forever. Thousands of lives were lost around the world, and it was no different in our city. Many lost loved ones, family and friends, and we, of course, lost one of our own, Margaret Beck, who I believe was possibly one of the first in the city to lose her life to COVID. And I'm sure our thoughts go out to all of those who have lost loved ones. The effect on businesses in our city was devastating, and some have never got over the effect and simply never opened again. And my work, as being said earlier, to hold functions and raise funds for our charity was curtailed, but we never missed an event to represent our city. Apologies now. I was unable to have a mayor's reception, so I think I owe you all a drink. Don't come all at once. We were unable to hold a mayoress at home event. We were unable to have a golf day. We had to cancel our mayor's charity dinner. Some of these events were potentially large fundraising events. A visit to see our adopted boat, not a ship, it's a boat, HMS Hanson, that was unable to take place. And I remember that day, well, I've got to remember, and I keep getting reminded, a submarine is a boat, it's not a ship. And I think at one council, when he announced that, I got some sticks here. No, we're getting a ship. He says, no, we're getting a submarine. No, we're getting a ship. So, well, I've talked to the Commodore and he's offered us a submarine. But actually, the submarine and having that affiliation, though she may never get into our docks, it was more about the affiliation with our crew, with their crew, and our affiliation with our armed services. On a brighter note, it has been an honour to have been mayor of our great city. I have tried and hope I've succeeded in carrying out my role with dignity, honesty and openness, and left a good impression on the people I've met, not just in Sunderland, but across our region. There are so many people to thank, so forgive me if I don't mention everyone by name. We would be here all night. But there are a few I need to name. Councillor Spedding for proposing me, and Councillor Peter Gibson for seconding me a year ago and starting me on my great year as mayor. My deputy and her consort, Alison and David, for their support. And of course, COVID plays its part in their work where we were unable to get together and do events jointly, which would have been a great support to Alison. Mandy, Estelle and Gillian, who do all the organisation, taking and vetting events, organising times of arrivals, researching the history of organisations and preparing notes and suggested speeches. And I must say, I rarely stuck to the speeches, as Dorothy will tell you. Our three mayor's assistants, Dave, Bill and Chris. Without these guys, all the work and planning done ahead of the events would not work without them. Their professionalism, their knowledge of our city and the wider area, their knowledge of the protocols at events is invaluable, and the friendship we developed will last forever. And the guys are not just mayoral duties. They don't just do the mayoral duties where you think, you know, they chauffeur the mayor around. They really do look after the chains. And then secondly, they look after us. I've always said, if the car goes in the river, the chains will come up first and we just have to make our own way up. And Dorothy cannot swim, so I'll help you, Dorothy. But during COVID, these guys were, well, they helped us move out of the old Civic Centre and get our stuff down into the City Hall. A lot of it had to go into storage, of course. And they were helping with social services to deliver food parcels for the people who were in need and the people that we need to look after. Just one guy sitting at the back there with his head down. Jimmy, thank you very much for looking after the ward and helping us continue doing our work with our people. As I said earlier, COVID has affected many lives, and the effect on the ability to raise funds for our two great local charities. It was absolutely devastating. We in the team estimate that we've had about 6 months of our great year to raise funds, but I have to say, the people of Sunderland, the businesses and local groups and organisations have been very supportive. And of course, our family and friends, some of them are here tonight, have been amazing and have helped us with our events. But never underestimate the value of the love of your family. Having them behind you helps you in your work as a member of this council, representing our residents. There are others in this room, officers and elected members, who have been over-generous with gifts for raffles, sponsorships and cash donations to help our charities. You know who you are, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. As been mentioned, we attended over 200 events, and a few events that I remember vividly are our remembrance service, where the people of Sunderland remembered all those men and women who gave their lives, not just in past wars, but up to the present in conflicts around the world. And of course, many of them have been left with injuries, not just physical, but mentally, so we can live our lives in freedom. The service held in the Minster that we attended for people to remember loved ones who died because of COVID was a very moving event. Christmas lights, I think I switched on every Christmas light in the city, and it was absolutely great. I hope I don't get the electric bill. The best part of it was seeing the kids' faces, those kids that actually believe in Santa Claus. That was fantastic. And of course, people have mentioned other events that we attended. I'll just go through a couple of them. The Citizenship Ceremonies. I did one this morning in full regalia. They're absolutely amazing to welcome our people from other countries. Autumn Feast, of course, was magnificent. Celebrations in Washington Old Hall, again a great one. 100th anniversary of Easington Lane Clock, absolutely brilliant and well done. The tornado handover at the Neslam, opening a business for Magna, a great employer in our city. Our carol service was fantastic. The Veterans Walk unveiling and various authority charity events, civic church events that I attended. I have another person to thank. I could not have carried out the mayor's role without this person. They helped organise raffles, tombolas, kept the mayor's Facebook page up to date, fed me between events on busy days, and this is for the gentleman. I've now discovered something that used to puzzle me. I would need a lot of shirts for the event, and I've acquired quite a large wardrobe of shirts. And when I was finished, I used to just take the shirt off and put it in a basket in the bathroom. I would maybe have to change shirts 3 times a day. I would next go into the wardrobe, and there they were back in the wardrobe, all washed, all cleaned, all pressed and ironed. Absolutely magic. My wife, Dorothy, of over 50 years, was obviously responsible for all I mentioned and more, and I could not have carried out or enjoyed my role more during my difficult times, and I know she wore her chain of office with pride. Finally, and with great pride, our great charities, Hug in a Bag and the Special Lionesses. They have supported us through all of this year. Their dedication and hard work, supported by friends and volunteers, is fantastic, even though their own family have suffered loss and heartache. I'm delighted and grateful for everyone's generosity and all of our hard work team. They all helped Dorothy and myself. The team still have to finalise what we have raised, and I know Alison said what we've raised, and I'm absolutely delighted. If we'd been able to do the other events, I think I would have possibly got another 6,000 or 7,000 there, but we're looking at £12,202 approximately until we get the final result in. And that will be shared between our two charities at the date when we get organised with the cheques. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your support, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Now we have some presentations. Firstly, I have great pleasure in presenting badges to Councillor Harry and Dorothy Truman to commemorate their year of office together with a photographic record of their engagements during the mayoral year. We will now deal with the election of the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Scanlon, I understand you would like to make a nomination for the office of Deputy Mayor for the ensuing year.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would nominate Councillor Dorothy Truman.
Thank you. Councillor Spedding, do you second the nomination?
I so second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Scanlon to speak the nomination.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, honoured guests and colleagues. It gives me great pleasure to propose you, Councillor Dorothy Truman, as the Deputy Mayor for the ensuing year. As of course you're all aware that Dorothy has been the Mayoress for the last year, and sadly due to COVID, been rather restricted in their ability to raise funds for their charities. But they must be congratulated on the amount that they actually have raised. It has been very difficult. I'm sure Dorothy will be a great asset to our new Mayor, and she will assist her ably because of the experience that you've both had over the last couple of years. So really, I don't have anything much to say other than, Dorothy, you'll be a fabulous ambassador for the city. You will help our Mayor in a great role, and I'm happy to nominate you as the Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Spedding to speak to the nomination.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did refer to Councillor Dorothy Truman in the vote of thanks. Clearly, Dorothy is well versed in the operation and protocol of mayoral duties, and I'm sure, together with Harry, will do a sterling job as Deputy Mayor. I really do appreciate that people from the ward in which I represent will again continue their role as Deputy Mayor and consort. So with those words, Madam Mayor, I wish them every luck. I'm sure they won't need it because I know they will perform their duties admirably. Thank you.
Are there any further nominations? Can we agree the motion that Councillor Dorothy Truman be elected Deputy Mayor of the City? Thank you. I declare that Councillor Dorothy Truman is elected Deputy Mayor of the City for the ensuing year.
I now call upon the Deputy Mayor to read and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
I, Dorothy Truman, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the Sunderland City Council, hereby declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
I now invite the Deputy Mayor to make her acceptance speech.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, honoured guests, aldermen, family, friends and colleagues. Sorry, my voice is going. Madam Mayor, thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond to the honour of being nominated for the role of Deputy Mayor of the City of Sunderland for 2022-23. I would like to thank Councillor Linda Scanlon and Councillor Mel Spedding for nominating and seconding the motion electing me into the office of Deputy Mayor of the City. Over the last 3 years as Harry's Deputy Mayoress, then Mayoress, I have met some amazing people here in Sunderland and further afield. I will continue as Deputy Mayor to promote our city and support and work with our new Mayor, Councillor Alison Smith, and her consort, David Smith. All this is made possible with the help of our brilliant mayoral team, who help us be at events at the right time and with the right information. Thank you, everyone.
Next, there are some gifts to present to the consorts, to the retiring Mayor and to the new Mayor. Surprise. Yes. We now have to deal with some formalities of the council meeting. The next item of business is to approve the minutes of the last meeting of the council held on the 23rd of March 2022. Can we agree the minutes? Do we have any apologies for absence?
I have received apologies for absence from Councillors Bewick, MacDonagh, Stewart, Watson, Wilson, Mason Gage, Hartnack, McKeith and O'Brien and Alderman Forbes.
Thank you. Are there any further apologies?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Denny Wilson.
Councillor Denny Wilson. Thank you. I now have some announcements to make. On Sunday the 10th of July, a civic service will be held at St Cuthbert's Church, Red House. Members and officers of the council, representatives of local public bodies and organisations will be invited to accompany me on this occasion. The Mayor's Civic Carol service will take place on Sunday the 11th of December 2022 at Sunderland Minster at 6 p.m. And as said earlier, the charities I will be supporting during my term of office will be Hope for All, the Friends of Bunny Hill and the Downhill Community Pond and Garden. The next item on the agenda is the election of the leader of the council. Councillor Rowntree, I understand you are making a nomination. Could I have the nomination, please?
Madam Mayor, I wish to nominate Councillor Graham Miller.
Councillor Usher, do you second the nomination?
I second that nomination, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. No further nominations. Can we agree the motion that Councillor Graham Miller be elected leader of the council? Sorry, Councillor Hodson.
Can I move an alternative motion, please?
Yes, certainly. Can we hear that now?
Thank you, Mayor Sunderland. I'd like to propose Mel Spedding as leader of the council.
Would anyone
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Right, we'll go to a vote now on that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we'll just give the officer a moment to prepare the vote, and it'll be taken in the same way as previously. So I'll ask each member in
Madam Mayor,
turn.
just as a matter of protocol, I cannot accept that motion from the opposition. I have no intention.
If I may
of
just
putting myself
respond
through
to
that
the point of personal explanation.
In fact,
Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor, if you were to break me in two, there would be Labour through and through. Thank you.
I think,
Councillor Hodson,
Mayor
would you
Sunderland,
like-
well, if the nominee won't accept his nomination, then it would have to be withdrawn. I would just return the council's memory for a moment to a time a few years back when there was a vacancy that just simply would not be filled on a certain scrutiny committee, and I believe it was Michael Mordy and Mel Spedding who nominated me by surprise. I thought they might appreciate me returning the favour. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Hodson. Yes. Can we agree the motion that Councillor Graham Miller be elected leader of the council?
My group would like to have a recorded vote, please.
Thank you. We'll now go to the recorded vote.
So, Madam Mayor, I'll call the name of each member in turn, and if they could indicate whether they vote for or against or abstain in respect of the motion to appoint Councillor Graham Miller. Should I just check if the governance officer's ready? Councillor Blackburn. So it's for, against or abstain. Councillor Burrell.
For.
Councillor Butler.
For.
Councillor Checker.
For.
Councillor Chisnell.
For.
Councillor Farthing.
For.
Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Foster.
For.
Councillor Peter Gibson. Councillor Guy.
For.
Councillor J. Heron.
For.
Councillor M. Heron.
For.
Councillor Johnston.
For.
Councillor Loughlin. Councillor Laws.
For.
Councillor F. Miller.
For.
Councillor G. Miller. Councillor Mordy.
For.
Councillor Price.
For.
Councillor Roundtree.
For.
Councillor Samuels.
For.
Councillor Scanlon.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor A. Smith.
For.
Councillor P. Smith. Councillor D. Snowden. Councillor D. E. Snowden. Councillor Spedding. Councillor Thornton.
For.
Councillor D. Truman. Councillor H. Truman. Councillor Ty. Councillor Usher. Councillor M. Walker. Councillor P. Walker. Councillor Warren. Councillor Williams. Councillor Ali. Councillor Eyre.
Against.
Councillor Bernicle.
Against.
Councillor Dixon. Councillor Donaghy.
Against.
Councillor Doyle. Councillor Dunn. Councillor Greener. Councillor Johnston.
Against.
Councillor Mann.
Against.
Is Councillor McKeith present? No. Councillor Mullen. Councillor Peacock.
Against.
Councillor Reid. Councillor Vera.
Against.
Councillor P. Wood. Councillor Bond.
Against.
Councillor Crosby. Councillor Curtis.
Against.
Councillor Edgeworth. Councillor Fagan. Councillor Paul Gibson. Councillor Haswell. Councillor Hodson. Councillor Morrissey.
Against.
Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Potts. Councillor G. Smith. Councillor A. Wood. Councillor A. Wood. Against. Have all members been able to vote? Julia Potter had a note that you voted against, yeah. So, Madam Mayor, there are 37 votes for, 25 against and 2 abstentions. Therefore, the motion is carried.
I declare that Councillor Graham Miller is appointed Leader of the Council. I now call upon the Leader to advise us of the appointments he has made to the Cabinet and the portfolio responsibilities, the appointment of Deputy Cabinet members and any amendments to the arrangements for the delegation of executive functions, which is item 9 on the agenda.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. And I would like to thank colleagues for returning me as Leader of the Council. I would like to thank those members of the Liberal Democrats who abstained. I appreciate you doing that. And I do appreciate Councillor Hodgson's sense of humour with the alternative choice of candidate. Rumours of my imminent demise apparently were grossly exaggerated, Councillor Mullen, and I am still here to plague you for the next 4 years. So, the Deputy Leader of the Council is Councillor Rowntree. The Cabinet Secretary is Councillor Paul Stewart. On the portfolios, the Cabinet Member for Children, Learning and Skills will be Councillor Farthing. Healthy City, Councillor Checker. Vibrant City, Councillor Williams. And Dynamic City, Councillor Kevin Johnson. The Deputy Cabinet Members on Children's Services will be Councillor John Quinn. Healthy City, Councillor Fiona Miller. Vibrant City, Councillor Peter Walker. And Dynamic City, John Price, sorry, my apologies. Children's Learning and Skills, my apologies, John. Councillor John Price. And Dynamic City, Councillor Ian Scott. Is there anything else you wanted from me, Madam Mayor?
Not at this point, I don't think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. Can Council note item 9? Please read.
Agreed.
We now move to items 10 to 14, which are the various appointments, an update to the Constitution and recommendations in respect of the Council diary. I call upon the Leader to move items 10 to 14.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I so move.
Deputy Leader, do you second the motion?
Second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Leader, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In relation to item 10, the details, including the nominations, are set out in the report on the agenda, together with the supplementary report which has been circulated. I would draw to members' attention the recommendation in respect of the Planning and Highways Committee, where it is proposed that there will now be one committee. Please also note that the proposal that no appointments be made to the fostering and adoption panels, which is set out in item 11, and I also draw attention to the proposed update to the Constitution set out in item 12 regarding the making of appointments. A revised copy of the Council diary has also been circulated at the meeting, and I now move items 10 to 14 inclusive. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Leader, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I have nothing further to add, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I understand Councillors Mullen and Doyle wish to speak on the proposal regarding the Planning and Highways Committee. And we will be taking a separate vote on that proposal. Does anyone else wish to speak on the items or have any amendments?
Councillor Hodson. Councillor Dixon. Could I just check that their speeches are not amendments?
I'd like to comment on item 10 and move an amendment to item 11.
Councillor Dixon.
Speaking on item 10, Elaine.
Okay. We'll take the amendment first, please.
My amendment, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Sunderland. Yes, I'd like to move a brief amendment. I'm happy to move it as a small package. I'll say it as slowly as I can so the officers can make a note of it. Under item 11, I'd like to propose that on the Newcastle and Sunderland Airport Consultative Committee, that Michael Mordy is replaced with Paul Edgeworth. That on the North East Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority, Paul Stewart is replaced with Malcolm Bond. And finally, on the Tyne and Wear Fire and Rescue Authority, Philip Tighe is replaced by George Smith. Thank you, Mayor Sons.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment?
I second the amendment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, we'll go to the vote on that now. Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, the same procedure unless you want to try a show of hands first.
Is there any? I don't mind. Right. Can we have a show of hands to start with of who is in favour of the amendment? We'll take account. Thank you.
Sorry, we'll take a named vote.
Okay. Sorry.
So, Madam Mayor, we'll just wait for the governance officer to be ready. And then we'll take... So this is the vote on the proposed amendment. So members are asked to vote for, against or abstain. Councillor Blackburn. Councillor Burrell.
Against.
Councillor Butler.
Against.
Councillor Checker.
Against.
Councillor Chisnell.
Against.
Councillor Farthing.
Against.
Councillor Fletcher. Against. Councillor Foster.
Against.
Councillor Peter Gibson. Councillor Guy.
Against.
Councillor Herron.
Against.
Councillor M. Herron.
Against.
Councillor Johnston. Councillor Loughlin. Councillor Laws.
Against.
Councillor F. Miller.
Against.
Councillor G. Miller. Councillor Mordy.
Against.
Councillor Price.
Against.
Councillor Roundtree.
Against.
Councillor Samuels.
Against.
Councillor Scanlon.
Against.
Councillor Scott.
Against.
Councillor A. Smith.
Against.
Councillor P. Smith. Councillor D. Snowden. Councillor D. E. Snowden.
Against.
Councillor Spedding. Councillor Thornton.
Against.
Councillor D. Truman. Councillor H. Truman. Councillor Tighe. Councillor Usher. Councillor M. Walker. Councillor P. Walker. Councillor Warren. Councillor Williams. Councillor Ali. Councillor Eyre. Councillor Bernicle. Councillor Dixon. Councillor Donaghy. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Dunn. Councillor Greener. Councillor Hartnack. Councillor Johnston. Councillor Mann. Councillor Mullen. Councillor Peacock. Councillor Reid. Councillor Vera.
For.
Councillor P. Wood. Councillor Bond. Councillor Crosby.
For.
Councillor Curtis.
For.
Councillor Edgeworth. Councillor Fagan.
For.
Councillor Paul Gibson.
For.
Councillor Haswell. Councillor Hodson. Councillor Morrissey.
For.
Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Potts. Councillor G. Smith. Councillor A. Wood. Have all members voted?
You've not recorded Simon Ayres' vote.
Apologies, Councillor Eyre.
There's three Labour councillors not. Yeah. And Councillor D. Truman.
Did you not hear those, Matthew? Sorry, so Councillor Ty, if you could give your vote again, please. And Councillor Usher. So that was Councillor Usher against, and Councillor D. Truman against. Have all members present voted? So, Madam Mayor, there are 28 votes for and 36 against, no abstentions, and so the amendment is defeated.
I will now invite the speakers on items 10 to 14. Councillor Mullen, would you like to speak?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and congratulations. Just one slight correction. It's Councillor Doyle who's speaking exclusively on planning and highways. I'm going to speak more broadly across items 9 to 11. First of all, congratulations to Graham on becoming leader again.
It's on.
Yeah, I think it's on. I'll bring it forward. Is that better? Excellent. Congratulations to Graham on becoming leader and for getting all of the votes from his own group on this occasion, which I presume he didn't a couple of weeks ago. I calculate that as being a 5% swing towards you, so well done on that. I want to speak about three separate items across items 9 to 11 within the agenda, the first being the return of the full suite of deputy cabinet members, because despite being told just a couple of months ago that there was no need for 4 of these because there wasn't enough work to be done, they're all now back, and we don't quite have an explanation as to why that has happened. We were told that the arrangement was going to be 2 floating deputy cabinet members to cover all areas of policy, and the leader said at the time, he will recall, that this was an example of him saving taxpayers' money. So I wonder why now he's gone back on saving taxpayers' money, and what materially has changed in the workload of those portfolios to mean that he now needs deputy cabinet members. What has changed since his previous policy announcement, which I recall the most recent version of that was at the budget meeting. And we also observed that the proposed cabinet member for Green has not appeared, and request if he could clarify if and when that will be coming and who will be the portfolio holder for Green. Secondly, I note that there is no appointment to a number of outside organisations that we used to appoint councillors to, sitting on their boards, and that was members of all groups used to fill those, but no longer. One of them that is currently vacant within the agenda pack is the Tyne and Wear Anti-Fascist Association, and I wonder if he could let us know if he intends to appoint anybody to that, and if he does, to outline exactly what the council gets from having somebody on that board, because the messages coming out of that recently have gone from being not anti-fascism, but simply pro-Labour. And finally, on the most contentious issue, the changes to the Planning Committee, which Councillor Doyle will also speak about in more depth and certainly with greater expertise than me. The proposal to merge the 2 planning committees is dangerous. The business of Planning and Highways East alone often exceeds 5 hours because of the volume of applications, the nature of those applications, and the contested or controversial circumstances surrounding them. This proposed merger will limit the scrutiny available for those applications. It will create further distrust in a council that is already accused of doing dodgy land deals and having bad relationships with developers, and it will make it harder to find the time for councillors of all parties to have applications called in that otherwise wouldn't appear before planning committee. And all of us do that, and it's to all of our benefit that there continues to be time to do that. There was no consultation whatsoever with the opposition groups about this change, and we weren't asked for our views on what it would do for the areas that we represent. This is just the latest of several attempts over recent years to limit scrutiny, to prevent opposition both within and without the Labour group, and to allow the executive to get its own way. And particularly concerning on that last point is the fact that a committee that now has just 10 members has managed to find space to have the leader of the council as its vice chair and the new deputy cabinet member for housing as a member. What is the justification of merging these two committees? It can't be said that there isn't enough business, because there is superfluous business for the current structure. It can't be to save money, because he's appointing to those two positions that I mentioned with the SRAs he previously saved. And it can't be to make the process slicker, because these meetings will now go on longer than the 5-hour meetings that already exist within planning by merging the two together and having fewer councillors on it. So why is this happening?
I now invite Councillor Doyle to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first, I'd like to congratulate you on your appointment this evening. This proposal, the planning proposal, is disappointing and worrying in equal measure. Disappointing because the executive has chosen to bring forward this proposal without consultation. No member of the Planning and Highways East Committee was asked what they thought about merging two existing committees into one. The discourtesy with which members of the Planning Committee have been treated here is something recognised by councillors, I think, from all sides. And I hope the leader and his cabinet will come to understand that changes to the way committees are structured should be made carefully, with the views of those councillors currently sitting on the committees affected having been taken into account. That is an important lesson. The proposal is worrying because it will dilute the influence of elected representatives over the planning process. Decision-making in planning is a responsibility divided between a number of different people, but central to the local planning authority's decision-making process is the local councillor. And that fact, together with the public consultations associated with local development plans and individual planning applications, give the planning system legitimacy. And this in turn, in theory at least, gives the public the feeling that they have a real stake in planning decisions made in their area. I acknowledge and accept the argument made in the report to item 10 that it is in the public interest for the council to have the most appropriate and proportionate arrangements in place to ensure that planning applications are made as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I submit that it is in the public interest to ensure controversial applications are subject to sufficient scrutiny. Concerns have been raised recently about the ability of planning members to interpret and apply the relevant policy and statute to applications. These concerns are valid, but only to an extent. The solution is not to delegate even more planning applications to officers. Rather, the solution is to better equip councillors with the tools they need to come to reasoned and defensible decisions. The leader will be aware that I've already made clear to planning officers my view that training this year should be provided on a more frequent basis and should include a detailed summary of what the core strategy and development plan is, how it is applied, and the circumstances in which the local planning authority may depart from specific policy requirements in the interests of the wider planning balance. I've also suggested that we look in closer detail at the relationship between the core strategy and national planning policy framework, as well as the role of supplementary planning documents and the prevailing allocations and designations plan. Under the previous single committee system, there were 5 development control subcommittees, one for each area committee area. This, I think, was an effective arrangement that allowed a clear distinction between strategic citywide decision-making on the one hand and localised decision-making on the other, while simultaneously maintaining legitimacy through the involvement of elected members. I make no apology for voicing these concerns during what is supposed to be a ceremonial meeting. I'm proud, actually, of the manner in which members of the Planning and Highways East Committee have worked over the last 18 months or so. It has been a model planning committee in that applications have been thoroughly scrutinised. Members have asked mostly relevant and difficult questions of officers and applicants, and politics has not been an influencing factor in our decisions. Much of this, I have to say, is owed to our chair, Councillor Michael Butler, whose diligence and fairness are warmly appreciated by me and the other Conservative members of the committee. Thank you, Michael, for everything you have done. And so, to conclude, Madam Mayor, I urge colleagues to vote against this proposal. We must defend the role of elected members in the planning process. Thank you.
Councillor Hodson, you wish to speak?
I do. Thank you, Mayor of Sunderland. I'm not going to mention my group isn't going to mention the planning, the change to planning, but I will say that we are in support of the comments that James Dorothy has just made. We agree that this change seems extremely drastic and not to the benefit of certainly applicants and the public. What I wanted to speak about is appointments to scrutiny committees, which I've spoken about probably at every single AGM since I've been a councillor. Once again, the 8 chairs and vice chairs of scrutiny committees, 7 of those are members of the Labour group. All of the chairs of scrutiny committees are once again members of the Labour group. The white paper that was presented to the council a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, did recommend that chairs of scrutiny was potentially put to a vote, a blind ballot, say, of members. It's very clear that we need to reform the way scrutiny is done in Sunderland. That's why we are going through a process of consultation on finding a new way forward. But I really must emphasise once again that the Labour group can't continue to mark its own homework. For the sake of transparency and accountability on this council, we need to have some opposition-led scrutiny. And I hope that I won't be seeing this again next year. Thank you, Mayor of Sunderland.
I now invite Councillor Dixon to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't actually planning on speaking tonight, but Councillor Doyle suggested I did. Having been on the planning committee for many, many years, going back quite a long time, I would like to reinforce what Councillor Doyle said about the Planning and Highways East Committee last year. I find this decision quite ironic, actually, bearing in mind I thought last year was probably the best committee I'd sat on in terms of certainly the personnel from my own party. And we had one of the best chairs that I can recall for a long time in Michael Butler. Probably death knell of his career in the Labour Party after tonight. But basically, he was an excellent chair, and the business went through really well. We got through an awful lot of important decisions revolved around the buildings here, Eye Infirmary, Culture House, the old Civic Centre, and business went through, but there was a lot of debate, there was a lot of scrutiny, there was a lot of questions asked by myself, Councillor Doyle, Councillor Reid, and Councillor Peacock, as well as other parties. And I just find this decision quite inexplicable. I have absolutely no idea why this has been done. And it means that scrutiny is going to be reduced. People like myself are going to have to step down because I am approximately 40 years older than most of my other colleagues. Perhaps I haven't checked the age of others, but with Councillor Wood in that sort of age group. And I don't feel inclined to hold younger members back when they want to be on the committee. So I shall be standing down from planning with a great deal of sadness. I find the idea of the council leader being the vice chair of this committee absolutely unbelievable. I think it's one of the worst decisions that I've ever come across in my time as a councillor. It sends out a dreadful message to the public, and I've no idea what fellow Labour councillors must make of it. And there must be a lot of you on the other side who must be very concerned about this decision. There's plenty of people, and I've been on various committees with you over the years, who will not be happy with this. And if you can perhaps, put your heads above the parapet and come up and tell us, we're talking about planning for the city here, not party politics. And I think that's very, very important. So it's going to be a very sad day when I withdraw from the planning committee, and I don't really see why I should. And I think that the membership previously was good. We had an excellent committee, and I shall look forward to what Councillor Miller has to say to justify this. Relationships with council officers has been excellent, and I think this is an absolutely dreadful step backwards. One of the worst decisions that's been made at this council, and I do hope that members will pull up the leader and his colleagues and vote against this. Thank you.
Councillor Rowntree, would you like to speak?
I've got nothing further to add, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Leader, would you like to have the right of reply?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. First of all, regarding Councillor Mullen's comments regarding Cabinet Deputies, which was taken in the middle of the year last year, when I was looking at and considering how things would move ahead, and I was honestly sharing a conversation with him and others. I'm slightly disappointed that it's then thrown back at me in a full council meeting when I was trying to explain my thinking on what we may or may not do down the line. Now, circumstances have moved on since then. We are in the process of having delivered 4 years of transformative change for the city, and the reason behind that is because Cabinet is working well and Cabinet members were saying they needed support. So I've reintroduced Cabinet Deputies to ensure that that work continues. And if you think the work that we've done over the last 4 years is transformative, wait till you see what we do the next 4 years. It will knock your socks off, ladies and gentlemen. So I am allowed to consider, I am allowed to discuss with everybody, including opposition leaders, what I'm thinking about and commenting on, but ultimately decisions have to be made, and we needed to have Cabinet Deputies back, in my opinion, to give that full support to a Cabinet team that's been working incredibly hard to deliver what the residents of the city have asked for. And we saw that in the elections on the 5th of May with a massive uplift in the Labour vote, and that will continue. So that is why we've done what we've done. Regarding TWAFA, at the end of the day, it's never been a Labour thing. I'm disappointed with that comment. It's all about support for the Anti-Fascist Association. Currently, we didn't have anybody who wished to be on it, so there's a vacancy there, and that's why there's a vacancy there. It's as simple as that. I am sure we will fill that vacancy over time, because nobody in this chamber wants the rise of fascism again in the North East or anywhere. Planning doesn't stop. This change does not stop councillors being involved in planning. What did happen under the old system, and for those of you who don't know me, I was a chair of Planning and Highways. I was a chair of Environmental Scrutiny. I was a chair of Planning and Highways when Development Control was a thing, and councillors then and now found it very awkward to be representative of their ward needs, because being on planning predetermined them if they had an opinion or supported their residents before going into a meeting, and they found it incredibly difficult to work on behalf of their residents with a comment and do that job. That was why we moved from development control to planning east and west, and I was still getting far too many comments from councillors across this chamber about how they still felt it was uncomfortable, and could there be a way of doing it so that they could, if necessary, be in the chamber to speak on behalf of their ward, but not be on planning. And this is the only way to do it, I'm afraid. Councillors are not precluded from being involved in planning. Actually, this enhances scrutiny, because if councillors wish to talk on behalf of the residents, they can do so. They have to attend the meetings. I've tried to keep it to a tight group of councillors who I hope will be interested in planning, because it's a very serious business. Planning has delivered great change in this city, and we will continue to do so. Michael, I'm genuinely very disappointed you're standing down from planning. I understand your reasons because of new blood coming through, and I will miss your considered thoughts and comments on planning. But that is why we've moved to this change, because it actually frees councillors up to talk on behalf of their residents more, because more of them are not on planning and therefore chained, shackled by the principles of you cannot have an opinion and you cannot speak on behalf of your residents' need, because at that point you're not allowed to vote on the application that's in front of you. Now, I'm trying to get that done the right way, enable us to get decisions made, but enable councillors to do what they feel is more important, and take councillors who want to do planning and understand the duty of it, because it is a busy committee, to do that. Scrutiny chairs. We don't mark our own homework, Councillor Hodson. You say it every year. At the end of the day, there's more opposition councillors on scrutiny than there are Labour councillors, because my executive are not allowed to be on scrutiny. So, ladies and gentlemen, if scrutiny is not working properly, it's your fault. Because whilst we may chair the meetings, you're making up a large part of the membership of scrutiny committees. And what is the issue? Maybe you should actually treat scrutiny more seriously, rather than constantly carping on about how Labour chairs everything. Well, unfortunately, we're the ruling group. The Labour vote went up in the city. People clearly are comfortable with Labour councillors being in charge of the city. And Councillor Mann, laugh all you will, the Labour vote went up, your vote went down. And that will continue in the city as long as we deliver. So I do take your comments, Niall, I genuinely do. I don't agree with them. And I would ask that councillors continue to give into their committees the way that they, in the main, have, and continue to do so. But obviously, I'm happy with the structure that the Labour group has agreed and has put in place, Madam Mayor, and we'll just leave it there.
We'll now move to the vote on the recommendation regarding the Planning and Highways Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this vote is just in respect of the proposal to establish the single Planning and Highways Committee. So those in favour of the proposal to establish the single committee vote for, others vote against or abstain. So Councillor Blackburn, Councillor Burrell,
For.
Councillor Butler, Councillor Checker,
For.
Councillor Chisnell,
For.
Councillor Farthing,
For.
Councillor Fletcher, Councillor Foster,
For.
Councillor Peter Gibson, Councillor Guy,
For.
Councillor Heron, Councillor M. Heron,
For.
Councillor Johnston,
For.
Councillor Loughlin, Councillor Laws,
For.
Councillor F. Miller,
For.
Councillor G. Miller, Councillor Mordy,
For.
Councillor Price,
For.
Councillor Roundtree,
For.
Councillor Samuels,
For.
Councillor Scanlon,
For.
Councillor Scott,
For.
Councillor A. Smith, Councillor P. Smith, Councillor D. Snowden, Councillor D. E. Snowden, Councillor Spedding, Councillor Thornton, Councillor D. Truman, Councillor H. Truman, Councillor Tye, Councillor Usher, Councillor Walker, Councillor P. Walker, Councillor Vaughan, Councillor Williams, Councillor Williams, Councillor Ali, Councillor Eyre, Councillor Bernicle, Councillor Dixon, Councillor Donaghy, Councillor Doyle, Councillor Dunn, Councillor Greener, Councillor Johnston, Councillor Mann, Councillor Mullen, Councillor Peacock, Councillor Reid, Councillor Vera.
Against.
Councillor P. Wood, Councillor Bond, Councillor Crosby.
Against.
Councillor Curtis,
Against.
Councillor Edgeworth, Councillor Fagan.
Against.
Councillor Paul Gibson,
Against.
Councillor Haswell, Councillor Hodson, Councillor Morrissey,
Against.
Councillor Nicholson, Councillor Potts, Councillor Smith, Councillor A. Wood. Could I check have all members now voted?
Miss Councillor Usher again, which was...
He's the furthest away.
So, Councillor Usher, would you like to just give your vote again?
4.
So, Madam Mayor, there are 37 votes in favour of the proposal and 28 votes against. So the proposal is carried.
We'll now move to the vote on the remainder of items 10 to 14.
And Madam Mayor, through you, just to confirm, that will include the nominations provided by the groups to the 10-seater Planning and Highways Committee.
Is that agreed? Thank you. And that concludes the business of the annual council meeting. Those councillors and invited guests are very welcome to join me in the Mayor's Parlour for refreshment, and I would be delighted to see you. Thank you very much.